Kampala in coronavirus lockdown. The streets have never been so empty. But Francis Okia is allowed to deliver essentials. And something else is different. Francis is one of the few people in Uganda driving an electric motorbike. He sees a lot of advantages to it.
Number one, it is silent. Number two, doesn't consume fuel at all. Number three, via hills, it climbs very well.
Okia's food delivery is being eagerly awaited by a pregnant customer. Since he saves on fuel, he can charge less than his competitors.
He's actually very cheap, cheaper than any other border guys. I think the other people double the price. So literally it has been convenient for me.
Images from just weeks ago. In Kampala alone, there are about 130,000 motorcycles over the borders. The masses of motorized vehicles generate a huge amount of air pollution and CO2 emissions. That is why the United Nations Environment Programme, the UNEP, provides advice and financial support for electric mobility in Eastern Africa.
We need intermediary response. We need intermediary interventions. And electric mobility is one of those because it is easier to adopt, requires little infrastructure, they don't emit. So you can have a complete switchover and go on a low carbon development path.
That path requires pioneers like Ben Lokeris Korean and Jakob Holbach. The graduates of Aachen University in Germany had a pragmatic idea to take the already existing fuel motorbikes in Kampala and transform them into electric bikes.
So all we remove is what you call the petrol-driven powertrain, and we put an electric powertrain. So as you can see, it's the same bike. Fuel tank is empty, of course. And what we put inside is mainly a controller, an electric controller, an electric motor, a battery as a source of power, replacing the fuel tank, and some digital controls and a throttle.
Lithium-ion batteries recovered from old laptops are assembled into rechargeable battery units for the e-bike. And the recycling loop continues, even when the batteries become too weak to use in the e-bikes.
So what we do is get the newer batteries for e-mobility. After that, when they lose a bit of power, we either put it in storage systems, like power banks, or power reserves. And once it loses again, a bit of power, we go to torches and other smaller applications before it goes to be disposed.
Deliveryman Francis Okia is one of the 20 drivers testing transformed bikes. On average, he has to return to border work twice a day to recharge. He rents the batteries for the equivalent of less than €3 a day. All in all, this has cut his operating costs by half. But there is still one thing that bothers him.
We won't have one place where we swap the batteries.
The feedback that we are getting from the border guys is also awesome because it doubles their income. So families, school fees, we see kids being brought from the village that are now schooling in Kampala because the riders have more money.
This rider is German engineer Daniel Dreher. He had worked for a solar energy company for several years before he decided to try to make Kampala's motorbikes cleaner. With his startup Zembo, he now imports cutting-edge electric motorbikes from China. Each one sells for about €1,000. That's quite a bit of money. But the drivers can pay over if bikes are tailored to their specific needs here.
Our driving mode is different than a Chinese person commuting to work. Here we really look into productive use and hundreds of kilometers every day.
There is still a long way to go though.
How many customers did you have? All deliveries?
The startup has sold 20 e-bikes so far, and they expect 80 more within the next 2 months. Sembo is already creating employment. Sarah Tabo couldn't find a job for 2 years. Now she's in charge of marketing.
Actually, it makes me feel very, very proud of myself that I'm contributing a lot to be part of the great team which is actually contributing to e-mobility.
For a small fee of just over €0.50, a Zembo driver can exchange an empty bag.
Live in the country, not like fuel which is imported from outside. So this has a huge impact on the environment, and we will breathe cleaner air here in Kampala. I see even in 10 years no fuel motorcycles sold anymore in the world market. It's an outdated technology.
This green technology behind Francis Okia's deliveries is a sign of hope in 2 ways: providing for people's needs in the lockdown and for a cleaner country once the pandemic is over.
That's all from us at Global 3000 this week. As you know, we love hearing from you, so write to us at global3000@dw.com. And do check out our Facebook page, DW Women. See you next time.
For signs of nature in the mega city of Delhi. Here there's plenty of pollution and little environmental consciousness. But the NGO Delhi Greens wants to change that. It aims to raise awareness with small eco-friendly projects. Will its efforts bear fruit? In 60 minutes on DW. DW's Crime Fighters are back. Africa's most successful radio drama series continues. All episodes are available online. And of course, you can share and discuss on DW Africa's Facebook page and other social media platforms. Crime Fighters, tune in now.
How does a virus spread? Why do we panic buy? And when will all this end? These are just 3 of the topics that we've covered in our weekly radio broadcast.
The show is called Spectrum. If you would like any more information on the coronavirus or any other science topic, you should really check out our podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us at dw.com/science.
This state of emergency is the new normal. People around the world are documenting these dramatic times. They're keeping a corona diary. close and personal as the pandemic will allow. Corona Diaries starts May.
Live from Berlin. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson addresses the nation after 7 weeks of lockdown. But if anyone was expecting a rapid end to restrictions, they'll be disappointed. With the second highest death toll in the world, the UK's plan is cautious. Also coming up on the show, Germany keeps a close eye on infection rates amid loosened lockdown measures, while recent outbreaks in slaughterhouses put a spotlight on living conditions for the workers there. And rolling up for the only gig. I'm Amian Isif. Welcome to the show. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson tonight unveiled a roadmap for exiting Britain's lockdown. In a televised announcement, he outlined a cautious relaxation of some of the measures, but encouraged everyone to keep social contact to a bare minimum. The UK has the highest official coronavirus death toll in Europe.
The lockdown must continue. That was the key message behind Prime Minister Boris Johnson's address on Sunday as he warned the British public.
A second strike.
With the government criticised for its slow reaction to the outbreak, opposition members described this update as a mixed message. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland have said their lockdown rules will remain. Johnson stressed the importance of maintaining lockdown, while simultaneously introducing cautious mini-steps towards normality.
And from this Wednesday, we want to encourage people to take more and even unlimited amounts of outdoor exercise. You can sit in the sun in your local park, you can drive to other destinations.
At the earliest, by June 1st, shops would reopen and younger pupils could head back to schools. All this only if infection rates and the number of deaths were to further decrease.
We must reverse rapidly the awful epidemics in care homes and in the NHS. And if we're to control this virus, then we must have a world-beating system for testing potential victims and for tracing their contacts.
With the UK continuing to suffer the highest official death toll in Europe, it faces a long road ahead. A return to business as usual, maybe many months from now.
Now, as Britain slowly begins to ease its coronavirus restrictions, our correspondent Charlotte Potts has been reporting on the developments there. She sent us this analysis from London.
Almost 2 months into the lockdown, and the Prime Minister made clear that there will be no grand reopening of the economy anytime soon. The highest death toll in Europe and the Prime Minister's own near-death experience with the virus have made Boris Johnson choose a slow, careful and conditional approach on how to ease the lockdown. Baby steps towards a new kind of normal, and only if the reproduction rate of the virus stays down. Johnson can't afford mistakes on the way out of the lockdown. Too many were already made on the way in when the government reacted slow and half-hearted at first. Now, a recent poll has found that Britons believe that their government has handled the crisis worse than other major countries so far.
That was Charlotte Potts in London. Here in Germany, the coronavirus infection rate has risen above the critical value of 1. That means every 10 patients are infecting 11 other people on average. The country's public health agency says it's too early to draw conclusions, but that the infection rate needs to be closely monitored. This comes after many lockdown restrictions have been lifted. Cafes and restaurants have opened in northern Germany, and warm spring weather has brought more people out onto the streets and into parks. Now, the rise in the infection rate in Germany has also coincided with several clusters of new cases in meat processing plants. The outbreaks have led to the temporary closure of 2 companies employing hundreds of contract workers from one of the affected towns in western Germany.
Animals are no longer being slaughtered here, but goods are still being transported. This large meat processing plant has been shut down. At least 190 workers have tested positive for the coronavirus. The real number of workers infected is probably higher. and that's provoked a backlash, especially against the working conditions where a subcontractor employs hundreds of workers from Eastern Europe.
People have to work 60 hours a week and more. People who have to live in run-down, mold-infested, cramped conditions, who are carted to work and back in packed buses and vans. It's dangerous, and that's why I'm protesting.
Reports of poor living conditions for these workers are nothing new, but now the infection rate is rising, and that affects everyone who lives in the area. The regional government relaxed the lockdown conditions a week ago, but not in the town of Coesfeld.
All the workers here are affected, and this wave of infections, this exponential wave of infections will hit Coesfeld. I've been getting lots of calls from local people, and they're scared. We are really scared.
And a local politician wants to show us why. She takes us to a nearby village, just a 15-minute drive away, where many Eastern European workers are housed.
Look, they write all the names here.
Names on the door are all Romanian. This man says he lives here. He won't tell us his name, but he says he comes from Sibiu, a city in Transylvania. He's not wearing a face mask and tells us the house has been placed under quarantine. The politician calls police to tell them that other people from the house are moving freely around the village and going shopping. Local officials turn up half an hour later.
I assumed that these residential buildings had already been tested, and that they'd put people who've been infected and people who had contact to them under quarantine. But it really doesn't look like that. They've only just started testing, and that's very late.